we're live from news at Desawe Kanda, also live on TV3 Ghana on Facebook, DSV channel 279, all across the world on 3news.com. I am Alfred Okansi. Tonight, on Ghana Tonight, the new patriotic party concerned about its humiliating defeat in the 2024 presidential and parliamentary elections. They are set to establish a 5-member committee to investigate the cause and the way forward for the party. Stay with us. We have a conversation on that. On a related development within the new patriotic party, the party's Agona West Member of Parliament, Cynthia Morrison, together with some 279 others, including some executives of the party in that constituency, have been expelled from the party. We have the details for you here on Ghana Tonight. From that, in matters of education, the Ghana National Association of Teachers, NAT, they've joined the Conference of Heads of Assisted Senior High Schools, CHAS, to demand the immediate release of funds to senior high schools and a permanent solution to high schools funding challenges. Stay with us. We have a conversation on this rather worrying development, and especially for many parents who are watching us right now. As always, you're an integral part of the conversation. Let's hear from you. The hashtag we're using is Ghana Tonight on Facebook and on X. As always, let's get talking. Let's settle for Ghana Briefs.
As 2024 draws to a close without the presentation or approval of the mini-budget, Finance Professor John Gachi warns that the president risks a serious constitutional breach. He further notes that failing to present the budget before year-end would leave a troubling legacy.
The legacy of that is very, very bad in terms of the governance of the country because this kind of action has very little effect on the new government, but has a huge effect on the outgoing government, especially for the first, from the 1st to 6th of January.
The Conference of Heads of Assisted Secondary Schools, CHAS, is demanding the immediate release of outstanding funds critical to the smooth operation of senior high schools across the country as they prepare to reopen for the 2025 academic year. A statement signed by the National Secretary of CHAS, Primus Barrow, noted all recurrent monies owed to schools remain unpaid, arrears for perishable items are yet to be settled, transportation costs for food items have not been released, while some schools have not received funds to cover essential utility bills. According to CHAS, unless these outstanding arrears are released to schools before the reopening date on January 3, 2025, it will advise against the resumption of the academic calendar. The Electricity Company of Ghana says it has implemented measures to ensure consumers enjoy reliable power throughout the holidays. A release issued by the External General Manager of Communications said the company, as part of its value chain, have enough electricity for all consumers. It said the technical operations team will run the usual 24-hour service, including the sub-transmission, fault sections, and control centers. The release also said the ECG has intensified its monitoring systems to guarantee reliable service and strengthened its maintenance operations. Customers are urged to report any faults or emergencies to the nearest ECG office or use the company's hotline for immediate assistance. The Bank of Ghana says the revocation of licenses of UT Bank and Capital Bank in 2017 was in line with strict reforms recommended by the IMF. Governor Dr. Ernest Adsin disclosed that the measures were necessary to address challenges in the banking sector, which he inherited upon assuming office. He made the remarks at this year's Governor's Day dinner organized by the Chartered Institute of Bankers.
When this outgoing government took over and tried to bring the IMF program back on track, there are a few requirements which the IMF called the prior actions. You have to do this, you have to do that, you have to do this. Otherwise, you are not even going to organize a board meeting to discuss Ghana and, disburse, any funds to you. And guess what? One of the prior actions was to resolve UT and Capital Bank.
This morning is on 3news.com. Make some time and visit 3news.com. This is Ghana Tonight. Coming up next, a new patriotic party concerned about its humiliating defeat in the 2024 presidential and parliamentary elections, set to also establish a 5-member committee to investigate the cause and the way forward for the party. That's a conversation that we're going to be having tonight. And in fact, gauging the mood and the reactions of both persons within and outside of the new patriotic party. This is Ghana Tonight. And the leadership of the new patriotic party, they've announced plans to establish a 5-member committee in January 2025 to review the circumstances surrounding its defeat in the 2024 general elections. Now, National Chairman of the party, Stephen Ayesu team, revealed this at a press briefing earlier today. According to him, the proposed election review committee will engage party stakeholders and the general public, said party stakeholders and the general public, to identify the factors that contributed to the defeat of the party. Stephen and Tim is the chair of the party, addressing the press earlier today. Take a look.
Thousands of Ghanaians who invested their hopes and dreams in this campaign too. As a party that was formed by individuals from all sectors of our society, who are motivated by the ideals of development and freedoms, we seek to grow the individual liberties of our people by growing a strong democracy. The party will, in the months of January 2025, set up an effective and objective election review committee to undertake a post-mortem into the outcome of the election. The committee will engage all party stakeholders and the general public on the factors and circumstances leading to our defeat. We have a firm belief that the work of the election review committee will enable our people to express their concerns and to bring out suggestions and reforms, changes, and other critical issues necessary to restructure tax. One critical area that must occupy the attention of the election review committee is the possible need for constitutional amendments and restructuring of the party's internal decision-making processes, particularly in the mode of electing presidential, parliamentary candidates, and party executives, among others.
Stephen Ayesu team already giving pointers as to what some of the issues will be in terms of the process of the introspection and reflection and the review that the party wants both internal actors and indeed the general public to help them in the process of reviewing what led to their defeat in this election. It talks about constitutional amendments as to the processes for the election of the party executives, parliamentary candidates, and even the presidential candidates, because it says that those are matters that have come up for consideration for the party as well. But there are some people who have already made recommendations as to what should constitute the party's focus in terms of the introspection and the review and what led to their defeat. Professor Ransford Jampo is a professor of political science at the University of Ghana, Legon. He has indicated that for the party to thrive and to have a chance in 2028, they must sack all the national executives of the party currently in office. Take a look.
I would call on the owners of the MPP and those who know the party's tradition to rise up quickly to rescue the MPP from the claws of Akufo-Addo and his remnants, and to totally overhaul the entire national executives of the party, the entire national executives of the party, so that the party is restored to its tradition that has been destroyed by Akufo-Addo and the currently manipulable executives of the party, who in their bid to hide their failures and incompetence are going about offering very infantile explanations, potential impact on their electoral fortunes. They didn't listen. I'm warning them again that they should rescue the party from the claws of Akufo-Addo and his remnants and ensure that the currently manipulable and incompetent party executives, national executives who are leading the party, they should be overhauled. Kick all of them out. And then let the party be owned by its owners. Let the party be restored to its tradition in terms of its composition and succession.
In words from Professor Ransford Jampo, makes recommendations that the party should consider doing away with all the current executives of the party. And he talks about the owners of the party coming for their party from the claws of President Akufo-Addo and his people. That's Professor Ransford Jampo, Professor of Political Science, University of Ghana, Legon. Now, earlier today on 3FM 92.7 Hot Edition, which airs at 5 p.m. Monday to Friday, I spoke to Richard Ahiagba, who is the Director of Communications for the MPP, asking him what process this whole introspection and reflection is going to take, and his response to Professor Ransford Jampo's proposal that all of them, all the party executives, including him, should be sacked. Take a look. The chair talk about, for instance, a possible constitutional review on processes leading to the election of presidential and parliamentary candidates and party executives. Why is that one of the considerations? A constitutional review to look at how all of these persons are elected?
Yeah, somehow the conversations that are ongoing about the mode of selection, how the order of selection, which one comes first. I've heard people say we should do the presidential primaries before the subsequent elections. You know, the current mode or order of selection is from the grassroots up. Some are proposed that we do it from the top down. These are ideas that people are proposing based on what experience they think we have gone through.
I see. We've had some information that some of the party agents have already been complaining to you that the funds, money that was meant for them on the election, they never reached them. Is it one that you're aware of?
I don't have any material evidence to confirm, but just like yourself, I have heard the complaints. I've heard people say these things that some funds meant for them didn't come, but I don't have any evidence to agree or disagree or confirm or disconfirm for you what claim they have made. But I've heard the rumors and the talk about something along those lines.
Now, how would you respond to those who say that part of, in their view, the challenge that led to the party experiencing this defeat at the elections gone by was the party executives? In fact, they've recommended that all the national executives of the party should be sacked, should be replaced.
Well, Alfred, again, on this matter, I think I've also heard, I've seen images that are put on social media, making the point of people being let go and all. Those are legitimate feelings and grieving processes that people are going through. Obviously, these are the individuals who led the charge for the party, and I think that they've done so or given their very best. The outcome of the election, very unpleasant, but I don't have any, feeling at this point to suggest that they were malicious in their approach to the election, or they didn't give their best or wished for the MPP to lose, for which reason we must sack them. It's an election. Our view is going into it to win, but if we didn't win, we shouldn't probably throw the baby out with the bathwater. We should do an objective introspection, which the committee would come and do, and on the basis of which, wherever we find lapses, then we can plug those and reform in ways that will make us more robust and more ready for the election. But as to quite simply saying people should go, if people go, people would come. what's the guarantee that the next people will do it if the real things that need to be fixed are not fixed? So I think that instead of looking at people and say, let this person go, let this person come, let's look at the real issue.
So that's Richard Ahiagba there, responding to that question about whether they should still stay in office as party executives or not. It's one that they say they're going to be consulting the public as well in the process of introspection and reflection and looking at what went wrong in this election and what they could do right going forward. But if you recall, the defeated flag bearer of the MPP, Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia, had already made his own diagnosis of what led to his defeat. And this is what he said to the party communicators last week. Take a look at this. He's indicated that for him, the NDC dominate. In fact, they said they dominated the NDC on social media by far, very clearly. They were working against the ownership of support from key media houses. And he goes on to say that was a disadvantage for them in many ways in terms of communication, because they had a lot of these key media houses who were not on their side. And, well, commending the party for working hard. But essentially, they say that they're going to come to the public to seek the public's views on what led to their defeat in this election. So we're going to start that process and obviously complement that kind of expectation they have. And that leads us to the people's voice right now on Ghana Tonight. Well, that's Dr. Jonathan Asantiochi is going to be joining us in a bit. But before that, let's connect with Emmanuel Samani right now, who is connecting with us from a location here in the Greater Accra region with the voice of the people. Samani, what are the people telling you about what led to the defeat of the NPP in this election?
Right, Alfred, good evening. Welcome to the People's Voice here on Ghana Tonight with me, Emmanuel Samani. Tonight, we're coming to you live from Newtown, Kokomlemle, Newtown. And tonight, we're following up on the leadership of the MPP's initiative, or the post-mortem or autopsy, if you like, trying to find out what led to that monumental defeat or loss to the NDC in the just ended December 7 polls. And so they want to find out also to know or just get suggestions as to what they can do to take back power, if you like, come 2028. And so tonight, we're on the streets to find out from individuals what the MPP can do to make this happen. Let's get the thoughts of some individuals here. Let's start off with this lady. She's watching, but yeah, I want to find out from you, what do you think the MPP can do to win power in 2028?
2028, I think they should sit down to analyze their mistakes and to know their faults in certain ways so that next 4 years they can try on it again.
So know their mistakes, but what, in terms of fixing the mistake, like what exactly can they do?
They should sometimes listen to the citizens, some opinions from the citizens. They should not only sit to give answers to themselves only, but they should listen to the opinions of we, the individuals, because we vote for them. They don't vote for we. Okay. Yes.
All right. So she's saying that the MPP should listen. Let's get the thoughts of this gentleman. He was filming us as we were interviewing the lady. Chief, what do you think the MPP can do to win back power in 2028?
Okay, let me just say, no, they made a lot of mistakes. They didn't listen to the voice of the people when they were trying to cry out of. Because if you could remember, 2016, Otunfo gave out a simple comment that Ghanaians voted out of hunger and hatred. So they should go back to the table. That's what they did to John Mahama. And now they've done it back to Akufo-Addo. So go back to the table, look out at the needs of the people, listen to the voice of people. Because now Ghanaians are, let me say, we don't talk a lot. We make a decision with our tongue. So they should go back to the table. Leaders who didn't help them in this election, their communicators, they should try and re-select them and come back to the table. I'm sure maybe with a good performance, they can still make a change. But even though now the party is down, you need to go back to the grassroots and listen to the grassroots in order to make a good decision for the party coming 2028. That would be best. That's my advice I could give.
All right. So grassroots participation is what he's saying. Chief, sorry to cut you, but what do you think the MPP can do to win back power in 2028?
Let me tell you one thing. They can't do anything. The system hard, you understanding me? The system too hard. They can't come. They can't do anything. They lie to us. They'll bring business for people. They can't do anything. So
they can't do anything
to come back.
Why do you say that?
The system too hard. You understand me? Also, people are so free, no money. You understanding me?
You buy food.
You buy food. You buy food.
Okay. So standard of living is high cost of living in terms of high food price and all that. But what is the one thing that they can do that for you it would make you have a change of heart? Like, oh, okay, maybe this is what will bring them back.
The lie is too much. So you understanding me? The light was plenty. So you understanding me? The light was. Now before this Ghana, before Kenke is 5 cedi, and now if you didn't get 20 Ghana, you can't eat Kenke. See, I understand him.
So for you, there's absolutely nothing they can do to come back.
They can't do anything to come back, MPP. They can't do anything.
All right, thank you so much. Well, you've heard the voice of the people. Some of the view that grassroots engagement, because Ghanaians are more discerning now more than ever, and to also listen to the people's voice. But for one other individual, he says that there's nothing that the MPP can do for them to come back into power come 2028. And that's it. By the way, the people's voice coming to you live from the Newtown area. Back to you in the studio, Alfred.
Manos Mani, thank you very much. And that leads us straight to Dr. Jonathan Asanchotre, is a senior lecturer at the University of Cape Coast, Political Science Department. He's a political analyst. Dr. Asanchotre, good evening. Thank you for joining us here on Ghana Tonight.
Good evening, Alfred.
Now, so the MPP is on a path that the NDC traveled sometime in 2016, setting up that Professor Kwesi Botwe committee to probe exactly what led to their defeat. Now, they say they're going to set up a 5-member committee to look into what led to their defeat. From where you sit and from your analyst perspective, what went wrong?
A lot. Let me once again say good evening to you and to all your viewers throughout the country and the world. A lot went wrong. You remember the refrain I used to use. He whom the gods want to destroy, they first make mad. They lead you onto a path that you think you're on the right path. And then by the time you say jack, you're in a ditch, and that is your destruction. What we call in Greek as ate. So if I'm supposed to analyze the cause of the doom that has befallen the NDC, I think that probably this time will not suffice. But let me say that the president, the behavior, the conduct of the president in office, I will give him about 60%, give 40% to Dr. Baumia as the cause of the downfall of the MPP.
60% of the defeat.
I think on the on the same set,
60% of the defeat was because of President Akufo-Addo's behavior.
Certainly. In office, his conduct, his policies, and then obviously I'll give 40 to Dr. Baumia. You remember, I've forgotten the line of argument I wanted to put across.
Forgive me.
But let me say that you have a president that has no appreciation of the value system that defines this country. People are talking about LGBTQ, and what do? You use the court to obfuscate the issues. 2, you go about beckoning chiefs to rise. Now your daughter speaks on phone as the national anthem is being played. You behave as if you never saw that. The video was out there. You behave as if you never saw that. There are people who have time for these intangibles in taking a decision as to whether they want to vote for the party or not. Generally, you can talk about the economy. And of course, this is where Dr. Bawumia comes into the picture. There is no way you will have to blame the president when it comes to the economy, because the president gave excuse, an explanation, a caveat why he picked Dr. Bawumia in the first place. And so if at the end of the day, the economy is in shambles, what do you say? Dr. Bawumia must take the fall. He must take the blame. He himself did not in any way, led the party in the way that they should. Apart from that, you look at internal issues. I have said that, see, the MPP conducted 8 different elections, internal elections. Every level of election brings acrimony, from the branch to the constituency, to the regional, to the national, to the MPship. You have orphan, and then you have the MPship proper. Then you had presidential primaries that they used, to take out some of the list, making it 5, and then the presidential itself 8. So at the end of the day, what do you think is likely to happen? So that being said, Dr. Bawumia himself will also have to turn around and look exactly into the mirror and tell himself that, look, people did not trust me and my character. And that is what the Afrobarometer came out, the report that came out from the Afrobarometer. Ghanaians said that they need someone they can trust and with character. Did he have that? Based upon his past record, I don't think so. That also, you need to also bear in mind that, for example, you go into an elections with a presidential candidate that did not even get a 70% mark, both in the primaries and the presidential elections itself, which led to him being chosen as the leader of the party. He never had 70. So from the word go, he's lost the elections. I said this time without number. So he was not on the grassroots. That is now the burden of the MPP going forward. But maybe you may ask that question later on. So these are some of the things. You go about, you have a statue erected in your name. When in actual fact that road is not done, that runabout is shambolic. Why do you do that? And you think that these things will not affect the very flag bearer that you have been rooting for? It will. It will. So these and many more, cause the downfall of the MPP.
I see. There have been recommendations that the current national executives of the party, all of them, should just be done away with, sacked. Richard Ayagba says, well, he doesn't subscribe to that. Professor Jampo says that is one of the surest ways of the party even having a chance in 2028. What would be your verdict on that?
Well, it is a democratic process, an electoral process. I think that they will have to have a relook at the delegate system. If you remember, I put it on Unia TV, for example, that look, I had about 13 of the Ashanti, regional constituencies that were boiling. And that's the more reason why Dr. Bawumia had to go and spend 15 days in that particular region, trying to solve some of these internal bickerings. When it became too tough for him, they had to ask President Kufuor to join the race, to join the fray and campaign for him. That is why they brought. So kicking all of them out, well, it could only take place in terms of elections. But if they so wish, they can equally decide that, well, in the interest of the party, we believe that we've done our bit. Our bit was not good enough. We are resigning en bloc. Let the party take a different path. That aside, the image, the overarching influence of Mr. Akufo-Addo should be deleted. It should be deleted because, don't forget, he was on the lowest ebb of his political career. And if you find out from Global Info Analytics data, the approval rating was even less than 40.
I mean,
you
but
don't
really,
go to
how can President
Akufo-Addo's
influence be deleted, as you're putting it? That is
the only way. That is
8 years.
Yes, his time is past.
His time is past.
See? Yes, have a new niche for yourself.
Well, because he has his own constituency in the party that has grown over time, over the last 8 years.
I agree. You see, the reason why Mr. Mahama had this overwhelming support within and without the party is because there are no factions in the NDC now. Mr. Rollins is gone, Professor Mills is gone, Emisata is gone. So you could see that the elders, all what they needed to do was to clamor around Mr. Mahama because that is their only opportunity, their only chance of coming back to power. So there were no factions. In the case of the MPP, there are factions. You can talk of President Kufuor's faction. That's the more reason why he had to go to the Ashanti region, because he felt that he wields that kind of control over that particular region. Right? You can talk of the president, the sitting president himself. Then later on, now that he becomes an ex-president, this thing will be there. Dr. Baumia's faction will equally be there. Now you can also talk about Napo's faction, but of course that will be under Dr. Baumia. But if people find out that, look, the mess that we all find ourselves, Dr. Baumia still cannot come out of the shadows of the president, then I don't see how he will succeed as a flag bearer of the NPP, because people will have to see that there is that particular change, there is that particular departure. But after, the other thing you have to bear in mind is that Dr. Baumia's influence in the party and outside the party can only be heard, especially when Mr. Mahama does not perform. And once he performs and he gets the acclaim, Dr. Baumia is history. Really? That is the more reason why they will have to have a rethink as to who will lead the party in this torturous period. That is something that they must bear in mind. And I think that going forward, the main MPP headache will be Dr. Baumia. That will be their main headache. It's a risk. Yes.
The MPP's headache will be Dr. Mahmoud Baumia?
Yes.
Why is that?
Because they will have to do a risk analysis. Do we stick with him or we depart from him? And I think that the committee that they will have to set up, which I believe they will have to take not politically tainted people to go around gathering that particular data, right? It should be apolitical. And these people, they must select them with various expertise so that they develop some kind of questionnaire that they'll be able to use to gather the data, analyze it, and be able to implement that accordingly. If they go and do business as usual, using it as a camouflage, as a kind of a top dressing of the issue, I think that they will only be tickling themselves and be laughing. That will not be the best way to go. Because for now, they must have people who are eminent within the party, who are not the old faces, who people will easily listen to as they ask their questions and then gather the data. That for me is the best way. That is why I queried Dr. Baumia when he said that 2 million of their people did not come and vote. That was too early and it was too simplistic, for such an analysis, because I think he still wanted to protect his political career. And if you remember, I told you guys that there is the need for them to set up a committee like that of Professor Kwesi, the lead Professor Kwesi,
right?
Committee to do that on behalf of the party, and then based upon that, they can have an introspection, and then take the lead from the report, a scientifically data-driven report that they can use as a way of coming back.
Well, it appears that's what they're going to be doing now. But stay with me, Dr. Sanchoche, because the next issue still borders on the MPP. You would have thought that, going into opposition and politics is all about numbers, really. And so the decision to expel people from the party would have been one that would have been thought through and reconsidered. But, well, we're hearing something else. Coming up next here on Ghana Tonight, the new Patriotic Party's Aguna West Member of Parliament, Cynthia Mamle Morrison, together with 279 others, have been expelled from the party. We've got some details for you here on Ghana Tonight. And this is a statement. In fact, it was a letter we got earlier today from the Aguna West, that's also the Central Regional branch of the new Patriotic Party. Now, we're going to run you through the exact reasons for the expulsion of these 280 people from the MPP. That's some party executives at the branch level and then also the member of parliament, the incumbent MP for Agona West constituency, who lost this election, by the way. She contested as an independent candidate. She's one of 4 MPs caught up in this whole issue at parliament. But these were the reasons: supporting an independent candidate in the just ended December 7, 2024 parliamentary election in Agona West constituency. So these people have been sacked for supporting Cynthia Mamle Morrison, also continuously demonstrating such character against the party in every election. Say that this is not their only sin. They've been doing this. And also standing as an independent candidate. This is with reference to Cynthia Mamle Morrison, standing as an independent candidate against the officially elected parliamentary candidate of the party, and joining or declaring their support for another political party, and supporting an independent candidate in the goes on. And then they talk about the other issues that they raise, also talking about the expelled members holding themselves out as members of the party. They cannot do so. They cannot hold any position in the party. They cannot attend or participate in any party meetings or activities using any party symbol or flag. They cannot do that as well. So these are the issues at play right now. And Dr. Sajotre, find out your thoughts on this development, especially because of the element of numbers in politics, and considering the fact that the NPP is going into a position for the next 4 years, but then again, they have expelled these 280 people from the central region.
Well, I will interestingly refer to my father. His usual refrain is that poor with pride. How can you be poor? How can you have pride when you are poor? That is what the NPP is displaying. They may want to crack the whip. It is very hypocritical. The same person that in parliament, they said that they are not asked for their sacking because they needed numbers to do business. Suddenly, you think that that person should be sacked because now you've lost the elections. To hell with everybody. I think that the idea of setting up a committee to go around to gather data is supposed to have, they should have left that decision to the committee, because it should be part of the questionnaires that they are going to administer. It should be part. And that in itself should influence or determine the kinds of areas that they may want to do constitutional review, because the chairman himself suggested something to that effect. I have suggested to the NPP that, look, the idea of conducting internal primaries for presidential, because they number more than 5, is very risky. All you need to do is to do it one time. Probably today, Mr. Alan would have still been in the party, because once he found out that the establishment was against him and was for Dr. Bawumia, obviously, he didn't stand any chance. And MPP being a conservative party, for example, and President Akufo-Addo told us, the long list, how Professor Dubois, Mr. Akufo wanted to challenge him, was told his time was not due. When the time was due, he wanted to challenge Akufo. They said his time was not due. When it got to his time, now Akufo wanted Alan to jump him. He said, no, it cannot be. And so he had that sympathy vote. Now, when it got to Alan's turn, you now went back and picked Dr. Bawumia ahead of Alan. That was going to create a problem. And so I felt that, look, the party, the current executive, the current crop of executive they should have exercised some kind of restraint with respect to this particular decision. Allow the committee to do their job, come out with their report, and start with the implementation. If the committee, per the majority of the data they would have gathered, suggests that those who have gone this way should be punished, they should be excommunicated from the party, that is the majority's decision. That for me would have been the best way to go. But this one is they are just acting in a very hypocritical manner, because not long, I don't know if is it the Suhum one, I don't know if he will also take the axe in a not too distant future. I don't know if they are going to do that. But I will advise that at this point in time, you cannot be in an army of ants and be picking them when you know very well they will be biting you as you pick them. So it is a very wrong decision on their part, very miscalculable one, and I don't think that that is the way to go. In as much as you want to crack the whip and ensure discipline, the timing of the disciplinary, acts is very wrong.
Dr. Santiochi, appreciate your time on this. Thank you so much for joining us here on Ghana Tonight. He's a senior lecturer, University of Cape Coast Political Science Department. Dr. Jonathan Asantiochi, thank you for joining us here on Ghana Tonight. Coming up next, away from issues with politics, let's get into education right now. Because the Ghana National Association of Teachers, that's NAT, they've joined the Conference of Heads of Assisted Senior High Schools to demand the immediate release of funds to senior high schools and the permanent solution to high school funding challenges in the country. That is what is happening right now. And if you recall, ahead of this particular election, the matter of the free senior high school funding sources to review or not to review, whether review means cancellation or all those other matters that preceded this election, really made free senior high school a big issue. But then again, the NDC was quite consistent that they were not going to cancel it by review. Now, in the coming days, we do know that as part of the 120-day promise or target for John Mahama, president-elect, the free senior high school review conference or some sort of an engagement with stakeholders to know what the next step will be for the free senior high school, the future of that particular policy is part of the 120-day promise of John Dramani Mahama. So we'll see how that will play out from January 8th after his sworn in from January 7th. But while we await that period, the Conference of Heads of Assisted Senior High Schools, they are crying. They are telling us the realities in the senior high schools as we speak. And this is it. Follow me closely. This is what they're saying. Now, while they acknowledge the recent disbursements of some funds to schools, the CHAS, that's the Conference of Heads of Assisted Senior High Schools, said they regret to inform, they were writing to the Education Minister for that matter, that the release has not fully addressed the critical financial needs of the institution. Specifically, one, all recurrent monies owed to senior high schools remain unpaid. Two, arrears for perishable items are yet to be settled. So we're talking about perishable items. Those arrears have not been settled as we speak. The recent disbursement of funds appears to have excluded single-track and day schools, leaving them facing significant financial constraints. Also, funds for transporting food items from distribution centers to schools have not been released, creating logistical and financial burdens for school heads. So some of these transport companies and these buses have had to transport the food items on credit for these school heads, for that matter. It remains unpaid. Some of the schools have not received funds to cover essential utility bills, posing a serious threat to the smooth operations of the schools. And you recall that just about 2-3 months ago, some senior high schools were disconnected by ECG for owing electricity bills. My school, Accra Academy, was disconnected, really, because some of these things that we're talking about. All students had to come together, contribute some money, and make some part payment for this. Well, guess what? They're not alone in this. It continues that some schools have not received funds to cover essential utility bills. And it goes on, and they make the point that these arrears for perishable items, and take note of the exclusion of boarding schools in recent disbursement. Also, funds to cover transportation costs for food items. All the outstanding bills are yet to be settled. They believe that these funds are critical in the successful reopening of schools on January 3. And the senior high schools are supposed to reopen on the 3rd of January, 2025. They say that without these resources, the school heads will face unsurmountable challenges in managing daily operations, providing quality education, and ensuring the well-being of students. And as a result, they are serving formal notice to the Education Ministry that unless all outstanding monies, as stated above with what I just read, are released to schools before the reopening date scheduled for 3rd January 2025, they will advise against the resumption of the academic calendar. So if these monies are not released guess what? Parents, brothers and sisters at home in senior high schools, their return to school is actually hanging in the balance right now because of this development and what we are seeing. Well, let's have an understanding of how serious this situation is. And Musa Tanko Computer, Thomas Musa Tanko, beg your pardon, Thomas Tanko Musa is the General Secretary of the Ghana National Association of Teachers, NAT. He's joining us on Zoom right now. Mr. Tanko, if you can reposition for me, we'll have this conversation quickly. And I recall prior to this election or going into this particular election that's gone by, the conversation about the sustainability of the Free Senior High School funding source and then also how to improve on this policy was quite topical. With what we are seeing right now from CHAS, what should be the major considerations going forward on this particular policy?
Very much. When we talking about education, it's very, very important that we look at basic education in its entirety, which starts from KG, primary, JHS, and then the SHS. Because you cannot single one out and leave the other. We must look at all as a single item that will help us develop Mother Ghana. Having said that, when the free SHS started, we made a proposal. Now look, after having run this policy for 5 good years, let us have a review of it. A review in a sense that it is not to say that we want to increase, we want to make changes or so, no. But the thing is that how do we make it sustainable? How do we make it sustainable? And once we want to make it sustainable, it means that we need to have a look at it. Look, as we speak now, from KG up to primary, we have the capitation grant in arrears for almost about 2 years. School feeding is also in arrears. And as we speak now, each child is fed on 1 cedi, 50 pesos per day. Where can you get the food? Get a 1 square meal of 1 cedi, 50 pesos. Where can you get it? It's not possible. And guess what? In the implementation of this policy, we have left out the JHS and we have jumped to the SHS. What kind of policy implementation is that? And if you take all these things out, currently we are even looking at WAEC also. WAEC is in arrears. And that's about, we need about 65 million Ghana cedis to enable them get the SHS results out. So in every aspect of our educational life, we are owing. And because we are owing, we cannot get the best out of it. And as I speak to you now, this is a letter. I have in my hand a letter from this is the letter. I want to believe that you have seen it from a conference of heads of assisted secondary school dated 20th December, talking about imminent closure of our secondary schools because of serious indebtedness of the schools in the areas of arrears, getting the practicals done, feeding, and among other things. So where we are now, the basic thing we need, the only item we need now is how we can fund basic education in Ghana. How do we fund it? And that has been the position of NAT. Let us all agree how to fund basic education in Ghana. The final thing I want to bring to your attention, look, almost about 95% goes into wages and salaries. The rest of it is left for goods and services. What can he do? He cannot do anything. And if care is not taken, we are gradually creating a class society where the rich people will go to the private schools and the poor will remain in the basic schools, the public schools. And at the end of the day, we are going to create a situation where if you are not rich, you cannot, if you don't have money, your child cannot go to school because the public schools are under resourced, and we cannot go on that particular tangent because that will lead to a situation where all the children will be going to child labor and be doing other things. And I don't think that it will be very good.
So in your view, from where you're standing right now, what should the state do to as in going forward, to ensure the effective and sustainable way of funding basic education, which includes senior high schools right now?
Number one, where we are now, we should no longer allow education to be used as a political football during election years. That is number one. And the number two, the only way to correct that is by having a legislation where we determine how we intend to fund public education in Ghana. Now, some of the sources of getting the money, when we are all agree that we need to legislate on how to source for funding for basic education in Ghana, we can look at the issue of what they call VAT. Can we add 1% VAT, add so 1% point of it to the current VAT that we are taking, so that that money that will come out of it, that money can go fund public basic education. The second thing we can also do is that you look at currently the property rate that we are collecting. There have been some kind of scenario that has been done that a lot can be generated there. So through the assembly, the money that will be generated, certain percentage will have to be paid towards basic education. The third thing we want to recommend is the oil money, the oil we are getting. Look, we cannot, we always, even though we say the ABF, the annual budgetary allocation fund, where certain percentage is allowed for the oil money to be used to fund the budget, it must be specific.
Right. So that ABFA, we've seen as well the oil revenue over time as dwindling. So that's another area it's another conversation we can have. But Mr. Tanko, before I let you go, already the conversation about a review of this free senior high school policy is rife. John Mahama captured it in this 120-day promise. It must certainly happen, no matter what, isn't it?
Even the first 30 days. Look, my brother Alfred, as you are speaking now, how do you call it, Charles, they have just issued a statement that the situation at the various schools, that means the SHS schools now, is dire. And if they say that nothing is done, they will have to close down. So we can no longer wait. And so once we are in it already, in the first 30 days, if we can organize, maybe the minister will not be there. That will be the challenge. But if it cannot be done within the 30 days, the moment the minister is appointed, even within the first 60 days, the minister is appointed. Because at the end of the day, it's going to be a policy thing. And the minister should really be there, get all the facts at first hand, so that the minister can then do all the policy work and get it done. So we first need to get the ministers appointed. Appointed. And after that will be good. So we are hoping that either within the first 60 days or that 100 days, the moment the minister comes into office, the Minister for Education comes into office, this should be one of the first items the minister should address.
I appreciate your time for this. Thank you very much for joining us. Musa Tanko is the General Secretary of the Ghana National Association of Teachers, NAT, talking on this matter. A number of you have been reacting to this as well. We'll get onto our social media after this quick break here on Ghana Tonight.
One bucket of flamingo paint is equal to
Touch Free Senior High School at your own peril as a political party. And also, Milan is asking what the operational definition of Touch is. And Andrew K says NPP is a good party, but President Kufuor has destroyed the party. That's to you, and Andrew K. And then also David Owusu also making recommendations, saying these headmasters are thinking about their stomach. It's a shame, you say. And also a number of you asking why Conference of Heads of Assisted Senior High Schools were quiet all this while and they started talking, you say. And thank you very much for those messages as well. And this is a very, very interactive conversation on our YouTube and Facebook channels. That's TV3 Ghana on Facebook and also on YouTube and on X as well. So keep the conversation going. I want to say thank you so much for staying with us here on Ghana Tonight. And this coming Saturday, make a date, the 3FM All-White Party, the 28th. The tables are selling thick and fast. So make some time, come through here and register for it. We would all be there to celebrate with you. It's the official wind down party for the Christmas. My name is Alfred Okanse. Have a good night.
This program is rated PG. It contains scenes of brief nudity, mild violence, and strong language. Parental guidance is advised.
This program was brought to you by
MTN, Cowbell Coffee, Yamvita,
Onga, Kivo 100% natural hot pepper,
Cousins Baby.
Dad, you need to wake up.